It is that time of week, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, where I feature and react to your hot takes from the past week. Don't forget to drop in your Bulls hot takes in the comments or on the Discord. We've got a dedicated thread there specifically for hot takes. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So to kick us off for today, we've got some interesting ones on Coby White, but I'll start with this one, which comes to us from Hitty390 from the Discord. And they say, Coby's gotta go. Simple as that. Also, Wendell Carter Jr. is criminally underrated since we are struggling without him. So I'll start with the Coby take first, because we actually have another one that's interesting in regards to Coby White that I'll get to in a minute. Now, I made a video a couple weeks back how we shouldn't rush to judgment on Coby White, and I've said this multiple times, but that's because he's only 20 and he's in his second season and he's still learning this new role that he finds himself in. Now, what I will say though is that I was never on the hype train of Coby White that some Bulls fans were on last season and going into this past offseason. I mean, I even saw some Bulls fans saying that from a potential standpoint, he had the potential to be better than Lavine and be the Bulls' best player. I even saw one ridiculous hot take that was on Twitter that claimed Coby White was going to be a future Hall of Famer, and the guy was actually serious. So I want to make that clear that I was never on board that hype train that a lot of Bulls fans were on, who were propping up Coby like he was the next coming of Steph Curry. At the same time, I also don't think it's fair to just slap a label on Coby White and claim that he's awful or a bust, which I know you're not saying in this hot take, just saying in general from what I've seen a lot of other people say. But I do think, I don't think that it's fair to rush to judgment on Coby White because he's still young, he's still learning, and what differentiates Coby from other young players is that he has a great work ethic in wanting to better himself. I mean, he's really in a role that doesn't fit his style of basketball. He's more meant to be a shooting guard. He's trying to learn how to be a better facilitator and playmaker as a point guard, but he's just not there yet. Now, I said in my last video, I do think Billy Donovan needs to take a hard look at this roster and start making some adjustments. And I think that starts with having Coby come off the bench for a while and see how things go, and having him be a scoring spark for the second unit, similar to what we saw last season. But as far as saying he has to go, no, I think that's a little too premature as of right now. Now, as far as your second take of Wendell being underrated, I mean, I tend to agree with this take, but it's hard to call someone underrated when they're very injury prone. But what I will say is that Wendell does get too much criticism for his play, even myself included, when you actually look at what he brings to the team. Because Wendell is a solid defender and rim protector. I wouldn't call him an elite defender, but he's a good defender, especially being undersized for his position. And he's not a bad offensive player either. I mean, before getting injured, he was averaging 12.8 points per game and pretty efficient shooting at 53%. Now, he hasn't been shooting well from three, but he has been shooting the best from long range so far in his career, but it's only 26%, so that in and of itself is pretty bad. But yeah, overall, Wendell is a decent player. He's only in his third season, he's 21, so I think there is potential for him to keep getting better, but again, a lot of it depends on if he can stay healthy. So does Wendell not deserve the criticism he often receives from Bulls fans? Yeah, I would say yes, if you look at what he actually does do on the court. Again, when he's actually on it. But is he criminally underrated given how much we've been struggling without him? I wouldn't go that far, because we're not just struggling because of Wendell only. Sure, that's obviously a factor. I mean, anytime you lose your starting center and arguably our best defender, the team is going to struggle a bit as a result. But the Bulls were still having challenges even when he was available. I think that is a larger systemic issue, in that the roster is not comprised well of good defenders in general, and the fact that we're lacking a quality front court. So I wouldn't just chalk it up to our struggles to only being because we're missing Wendell. Next up, and another related Coby White take, and this one is from B Cubs, and he says Coby White is the second coming of Cameron Payne. Come on now, my guy. I hope this was just a trolling comment, because as much as I have issues with Coby White, and never understood some of the hype some Bulls fans were giving him. But comparing him to Cam Payne, I mean, for all of Coby's flaws and his most recent slump, he's still a decent player, a much better scorer than Cameron Payne ever was throughout his career. Even now, despite Payne actually playing decently with the Suns, of course, a player would have some of his worst years with the Bulls and then shine on another team. But Coby is a better scorer, a better passer and playmaker, which is crazy to say because, Coby does have his struggles in that area. Cameron Payne is also a horrible defender, and his assist to turnover ratio is abysmal compared to Coby's. So, no, just no. I mean, Cameron Payne never even had the rookie or sophomore season like Coby has had. If you're implying, Coby White will somehow fall off into Cameron Payne territory for his career. Well, Cameron Payne never even had any moments where he showed that kind of potential and promise that Coby White has shown. Okay, next up we've got Joe the Blacksmith, and he says, Stacey King blends entertainment, info, and insight better than any announcer in the league. Now, I've also been seeing a lot of other comments where, whether it's in the video comments or live chats during the games, that Stacey King and Adam Amin are the best commentators in basketball. So even though this hot take isn't about any of the players, and maybe not even really necessarily about the Bulls, I really wanted to include this one because I have to say, when I heard Neil Funk was retiring, I was pretty bummed because I got so used to the Funk and Stacey King dynamic and the chemistry that they had for so many years. Now, I was somewhat familiar with Adam Amin because, he's previously been a broadcaster on ESPN, and actually, thought that he has a great commentator voice. He was almost kind of built for this type of job. And honestly, he just fit right in alongside Stacey King, and I would say the dynamic is even better because they actually complement each other very well in terms of their humor, their analysis, and general play-by-play commentary. I mean, the other night when they poked fun at that guy in the retro Bulls uniform in Orlando, I was dying of laughter. I can't say any other commentators has made me laugh that way, the way these guys do. Now, I know your take was specifically referencing Stacey King, and yeah, I agree actually. He's great because not only does he have the humor, he has the iconic sayings and always adds to those sayings depending on the new players who join the team. But on top of that, he's actually an amazing basketball analyst, partially because he was an NBA player himself, so he knows the game well. He knows the opposing team players well, which most other local broadcasters don't. And I do feel like oftentimes he calls out things that most people don't even notice on the floor, which I find very valuable for someone who's a bit of a basketball nerd. I will say, as Bulls fans, we are probably somewhat a bit biased in thinking that, they're the best commentators out there. But man, I've had to listen to some of the other announcers for other teams, whether it be because the Bulls broadcast was messing up on League Pass or just watching it on another network. And they're just kind of boring, or they try too hard to be funny and come up with witty comments. I just don't think anyone really compares to Stacey King and Adam Amin. But I can also recognize that I'm biased in that thinking, and to be fair, I haven't heard all of the other team announcers across the league, so, to say that they're the best. But from what I've heard, they're far and away the best commentators and broadcasters in the league, in my opinion. We'll do one more, and this maybe not that hot take comes to us from Jeriel in the Discord saying, we're underestimating how much AK, Arturas Karnisovas, wants to blow up this team this offseason. Everyone is dropped except Patrick Williams and Garrett Temple. He's trading Zach at the highest value this summer for picks and a particular young talent that needs a change in scenery. So the not so hot part of your take that I agree with is that Arturas is going to make quite a few changes. I mean, that's pretty evident, now, given how the roster is currently performing, even under a new coach, and with the injury issues that we have. Now, it won't be one of those things where everyone is dropped but P. Will and Temple. I think I had another similar hot take to this, where someone said that AK was going to trade everyone but Zach. Well, the fact of the matter is, it just doesn't work that way. You can't move all of your players but one or two guys. I do think he will be making a lot of moves in the offseason, maybe even before the trade deadline. And I do think no one is untouchable with the exception of Patrick Williams, again, because of his age, potential, and the high lottery pick that we used on him. And it was a guy that Arturo selected himself, but he's not going to be able to just move everyone else on the roster. First of all, I do think an effort should be made to keep Lowry despite the injury concerns. Despite Zach's most recent games, I don't think it's worth trading him unless you can get significant value for him. Picks and a younger player, in my opinion, isn't enough unless that younger player is like Luka or Zion or Ja Morant, which won't happen. So in short, yes, there will be quite a bit of a shakeup to this roster in the offseason. I mean, that's what he was brought and designed to do. Even for his own career, he's going to want to take a step and come in and start making changes and constructing his own roster, because for the most part, this is still the same roster that Gar Pax had put together, and he's going to want to start creating something that is his own. So that's all I've got for this week's Hot Takes. Thanks to all of you who have been sending in your takes. Like I said, if you want your hot take to be featured in next week's video, feel free to add it in the comments here below or on the Discord server. I'll leave a link to that in the description. The Bulls are playing the Pelicans tonight, who have been really hot recently, winning 4 straight. I'll have a live game chat for that as always. And thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one.